Hello, I'm Father Mitch Pacwa, and welcome to EWTN Live, where we bring you guests from around the world. Our guest tonight is an entrepreneur, a Catholic philanthropist, and a longtime friend of the network, and a longtime friend of mine as well. He's here to discuss how the Catholic faith changed his life and his business practices, and the ripple effect that faith-based investments can have on people and institutions in order to expand the reach of the gospel. So please welcome tonight's guest, Mr. Tom Monaghan. Tom, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you again, Father.
How long has it been since you've been here at the network?
Well, I didn't have any gray hair, so it'd be about 25
2 years ago? No. Yeah, 20. Well, because I remember you appeared here in 87.
87?
Yeah, so it might even be longer than 25 years.
Yeah, I was on the show twice with Mother.
Yes, so yeah, then it's over 25 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you back. Good to have you back. Sorry she can't be here with us.
She's with us.
Yeah, that's true. Always makes me nervous to think about that. So, you have done well, but especially you did well in Domino's Pizza, right?
Yeah, good days and bad days, but
Yeah.
I was very fortunate.
Yeah. And you haven't worked with Domino's in quite some time now, right?
I sold the company in 1998.
Mm-hmm. What have you been doing with your time since you stopped making pizza?
Well, I started at Catholic University, and I run Legatus less and less as time goes by, and the law school. And most of the other things I was doing, they phased out there on their own. Mother Assumpta with the sisters. And
so this is one of the things that has been interesting. Starting a university is not something that you just do as a hobby. First of all, tell us what university it is.
Well, it's Ave Maria University. Started out in Michigan, and we couldn't get zoning where we wanted to build the campus, so we moved to Florida, outside of Naples, and it was quite a bloodbath moving from Michigan to Florida because the faculty did not want to move.
Yeah, but the faculty that are there now must like Florida, no?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons I moved there, because I thought it would be one of the easiest places to attract top faculty to, because it has the second best weather in the country, next to San Diego.
Yeah, that's San
true.
Diego is
That's what they say.
Really super weather.
But when I was in San Diego, I didn't think it was so great. That was boot camp in the Marine Corps many years ago.
When you were in boot camp, you probably weren't thinking so much about the weather. You had other things to, unless it was raining on you, which is rare.
Yeah.
But what's the purpose of starting Ave Maria?
Well, I thought there was a need. Everything in Catholic higher education seemed to be falling apart. The catechisms were terrible. When the nuns took the habits off, they left the classrooms, and a lot of schools closed, or they did whatever they had to do to survive. And then at the higher education level, it was started with the Land O'Lakes Conference, so that almost none of the Catholic schools were faithful to the teachings of the church.
Yeah, there was a lot of folks don't understand, but back that whole Land O'Lakes conference, back in 69, had been preceded by a decision from the Supreme Court that all of the colleges started by religious orders had to reduce the number of members of their order that were on the board of trustees.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was a Supreme Court decision back in '66, It was a case that came from Maryland. And so basically it was, or if they didn't remove the percentage, they could have 1/3 of the board could be from the founding order.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And if they didn't do that, then the students going to those schools would not get federal money. The schools could not get any federal money. And the big issue was something you may have used, namely the GI Bill.
If I had the GI Bill, I'd be an architect today.
Yeah.
I was between Korea and Vietnam, so
Oh,
it wasn't
see.
available to me. It became available later, but by that
Right.
time I was head over heels in debt in the pizza business and married with a baby, and so I was stuck in the pizza business.
Yeah. Well, for the ones in the 60s, the GI Bill was a big concern. They weren't worried about, government,
Intrusion.
financing of research or something. The Catholic schools didn't get that much from it, but they were worried about the GI Bill, so they had to adapt, and that was why that removing, basically they confiscated the universities from the Catholic orders that started them. And then they adapted after that to try to, deal with the government regulations.
And one of the people that signed that document, the Land O'Lakes, was Monsignor McCarran.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
know that. Well, the Ave Maria did not sign the Land O'Lakes document, did they?
No, we would be the last one to do that.
Yes, yeah. What do you see as the goal of Ave Maria?
Well, my goal was to be a beacon for other Catholic schools, to show that being faithful to the teaching of the Church would lead to success, because they were just basically caving into the culture.
Yeah. And one of the things, because I was on the board there with you back some years ago, a couple decades ago now, but you didn't just build a college, you built a whole town.
Right, the town of Ave Maria.
And one of the distinctive elements is that the very geographical center of the town is the church, the chapel for the university. That says something. It's dedicated to Our Lady, right?
Right. Yeah, I got to practice my favorite hobby, architecture.
Yeah.
And I designed that church.
Okay. Well, it's a beautiful church, and it really does.
I kind of ran out of money, or it'd be a lot nicer.
That sometimes you're not the first one to have this. That's why it took a few hundred years to build some of the cathedrals in Europe. I mean, Notre Dame and all those. They didn't do it overnight.
Yeah, the one in Barcelona.
Yeah, that one about still working on it. But I think you're saying something by having the chapel at the center of the whole town, and the university integrated into this town. How would you have put the reason for you to do that?
Well, I looked at a lot of churches in Europe, and Siena was the closest thing to get the feel, because the buildings were all around we call the piazza, with the church in the middle. And it's 108 feet tall. That's about the same height as St. Patrick's in New York. Not counting the steeples, of course.
Right. So go ahead.
Yeah, we wanted height, and because I think they wanted it to reach towards heaven.
Well, that was always the purpose of the European cathedrals. The medieval cathedrals were always reaching up toward. They point toward heaven. And that does too. When you're inside, the attention takes you up to give you that heavenly perspective.
The only problem is they get a lot of hurricanes down there, and so we had to put about 5-foot thick foundation under the slab under the whole thing, like a ballast, because it's like a huge sail.
Yeah, right. Have you had any trouble with the hurricanes?
Oh no, not the way that's built.
Okay. Yeah, so it worked. The engineering and the architecture figured that out. Now, how is the university doing at this stage? How would you see the development of the school itself? How is that going?
Well, we had a lot of learning experiences going along. Since Mark Middendorf, our new dean and president, came, it's been miraculously successful.
Yes.
He came out of Augusta Institute, and had been when he was in the corporate world, he was one of our early benefactors.
Is that right?
He founded Lighthouse, and he merged it with Augusta Institute.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that was a goal, I remember we discussed this when I was on the board years ago, keeping an academic excellence and a Catholic identity in close ties with each other. How's that developing?
Well, that's doing well. Of course, theology has always been our flagship. We have Father Matthew Lamb,
Yes,
who
fine
started.
scholar.
Oh, yeah. And so we had a PhD in theology right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had hundreds and hundreds of people all over the country teaching at seminaries and Catholic schools. And now we've had a master's in philosophy, and we plan on doing a PhD in theology too. I mean, philosophy also.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a strong core curriculum. And our priority is vocations. We think that we can have more vocations than any school in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And stay at a small size, like 1,500 is our maximum.
So 1,500 students at the school, the whole university? Undergrad. And how about grad students?
Well, there's about, I'd say about 250.
250.
And plus the law school is a separate entity, and that's another 350, 400.
Yeah. And when you say that you have a priority on encouraging vocations, what can the university do to help facilitate those vocations?
Well, first of all, it's the kind of students we recruit. We're very selective, and we want serious Catholics, and that's a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So you have something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have a vocation, we want to have all the resources to foster that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's women too.
Yeah, right. No, that's, this is one of the real, deficiencies in the church today. There aren't nearly enough women's vocations. The role of the sisters in the church is something that is truly important. Their contribution is something absolutely
Well, you're familiar
necessary.
with Mother Septa-Long.
I've had her on the show. It's been a while, but yeah.
She's really something.
Yeah.
We brought her to Ann Arbor with 3 other sisters, and they started the Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, and now they've got sisters teaching all over the country.
Yeah, it started off with the 4 of them.
Right.
That was what, about 98, 97?
About them.
Yeah, right
maybe
around
96,
then.
somewhere.
And now they're up to well over 150, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe even more.
It's still growing.
Yeah, it is.
Mother retired, but of course she's well in her 90s, and she's still pretty active.
I know. I've often pointed out to people that the group that has the greatest longevity in our society are nuns. And then the second group would be single women who are not nuns. They have the second longest. Then married women, and then married men, and single men are short. And, you know, when I think about that, I've come to the conclusion that apparently women add a few years to our life and we take a few years off of theirs.
Maybe more than a few.
Well, I'll leave that up to the actuarials at the insurance company, but that seems to be the case. But the role of women religious is important. And certainly one of the problems I hear about, I don't know if you do from Mother Sumta and the other folks at Ave, a lot of times parents discourage their children from any religious vocation, but especially their daughters from being nuns.
And I hope not with the kind of girls that we attract.
That's good. That's good.
'Cause we try to be very selective. We're not interested in mediocre Catholics.
Right.
Some people say, well, you can convert them, but I'd rather take good Catholics and make them saints rather than take bad Catholics. Try to make them good Catholics.
See, and I think that's always a tension. Do you try to win people over, or do you try to train those who are best so that as they spread out, they have that
Well,
influence?
we're not a reform school, we're a finishing school.
Okay, and I think knowing that is an important part of setting your identity as a school. That, you know, this is not, we're not here to evangelize people that don't know anything. We're here to finish off the good education in the faith people already have.
Yeah, you know, it's so natural to grow. Everybody wants growth. How many students do you have? And to me, it's the quality of the students. Hillsdale is the perfect example. And we're the Catholic Hillsdale we're trying to be.
Uh-huh.
Someday they'll brag that they're the secular Ave Maria.
I can only hope. I can only hope. But having that kind of excellence of education, that kind of impact, is a very key goal.
Well, you got to stay focused. You can't be doing all things to all people. We have a strong core curriculum, probably the strongest of any Catholic school in the country. And,
by core curriculum, what would be some of the subjects that get included in the core?
literature, English, math, science, probably economics.
Do they require to learn any other languages? Or is that an
I don't
option?
know if we do now or not. We did. Everybody had to take Latin when we started, but that didn't go over too well. A lot of people did everything, but they had to take their other stuff and then transfer it out because they didn't want because they had to take Latin before they graduated. Maybe we'll bring it back.
Yeah, yeah.
We're turning down this year 71% of our applicants.
Really?
That's the lowest acceptance rate of any Newman Guide school by far.
So that means that people who apply, 71% don't make it.
That's right, not accepted. Now, when we started, we couldn't do that.
No.
Now we can.
No,
I mean, Mark has done a fantastic job of just raising the level of the faculty and strengthening the core curriculum. And we got an outstanding provost and Roger Nutt, who came out of well, he's a convert, but he went to Franciscan for his master's in theology and then went to Rome for his PhD.
Yeah.
He's quite a Thomas theologian now.
See, that's, all of this adds up. And, the students, here's one of the questions too. If they have this core curriculum, this, getting the basics of Western civilization, which is in a lot of schools very controversial. A lot of schools don't want you to read certain literature that frequently enough They don't even like you to study good grammar. You know, this is...
Well, we do better than that. We have a course on full-time motherhood.
Is that right?
You talk about
Yeah.
non-political.
Yeah. That would be politically very incorrect in plenty of places. But, you know, but even to study Shakespeare gets reduced to arguments of the politically correct. Well, he's an old white man. To use such an argument.
Well, we have an outstanding Shakespeare program. We put on a program every year.
And people don't realize how important that is. They perform the plays at the school?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah. Excellent.
Might be the best in the country.
So
Certainly one of the best.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to have a theater that did that in Alabama, but I don't think they do anymore. So that's going well. And
when I was in business, I looked at thousands and thousands of resumes, and I didn't even. I wanted liberal arts students, not business students.
Is that right? Why is that?
Because they were more flexible. They could think more. They were just better employees, just from experience.
Mm-hmm. So that was one of the questions I was leading to. You know, people, you know, spend a lot of money to go to college these days. Ave Maria, first of all, in terms of tuition cost, is that competitive?
Yeah, we're about high 20s.
High 20s?
Mm-hmm.
That's very good. That's very, you know.
And we don't have grade inflation.
Yeah, you don't?
No, 50% of the grades given in college in the United States are A's.
Yes,
50%.
I know. I know.
I mean,
I heard a comment just a couple nights ago on a news show that Harvard University is offering a course in remedial mathematics, but they're giving the students all A's. I said, well, do they know math or don't they? You know, this would be crazy.
well, that's another thing. We don't have tenure.
You don't have tenure either.
No.
Yeah. Well, that.
And we're working. We're in a process of getting rid of federal funding.
Is that
We
right?
should have never had it in the first place, but I didn't understand. With a school that's as spiritual as we are, we're going to be a big target. We're the school the devil hates the most. That's our number one goal.
That I see. So you
So
like.
we're going to get attacked.
Yeah. So you like picking your enemies, you know, and going to the top.
But our lady's stronger.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, St. John wrote in his epistle that the one who is within us, Christ, is stronger than the spirit that's in the world. So, you know, that you have to depend on that, but you also have to have some clever people to deal with that, you know, the forces of evil that are against it. But one of my questions is, with, you know, this is more than competitive tuition. Where I went to grad school, the tuition is over $80,000 a year.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Not when I was there.
For undergrad or grad?
I think for everything, for undergrad.
Wow.
$80,000 a year. When I was in grad school, it was $4,000 a year.
Wow. And half of the Catholic schools that were open in the 60s are closed now.
Is that right?
Yeah. Like Michigan, we had 8, and now we got 3.
Is that right?
In my home state.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, how is it then, you know, in terms of, say, for the undergrads, how are their job prospects? Because people pay even $20,000 a year for 4 years is a significant amount of money. And, you know, when they graduate, do they find work, or are they going on to graduate school? What would be the
Well, a lot of our students
pattern?
are going on to graduate school, but I couldn't give you the numbers on that, but I would say we're doing pretty good in hiring. I know the law school is doing well. They do much better than the average, even though we're a relatively new school.
Well, let's go to the law school. Now, this is a law school. It's for people who already graduated.
Right.
3-year program, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the law school. What makes them so distinctive as a law school?
Well, that's an easy question to answer.
Yeah.
In the first place, when we started, there was only one conservative law school in the country. So they say 97% of law school faculty are Democrats or worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very liberal part of higher education.
Mm-hmm.
And the only school that wasn't liberal was Regent.
Which
Pat
one?
Robertson School.
Oh, okay.
There's several since. Liberty has a law school.
Mm-hmm.
Brigham Young has a law school. They're conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And us, that's probably it. Maybe George Washington a little bit, but they're all liberal. And every year we're listed as the #1 conservative law school in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Every year we're named the #1 law school for devout students in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And the Newman Guide just came out with ranking grad schools. They're always just undergrad. And we're the only law school of 29 Catholic law schools in the United States that's in the Newman Guide. So some of the reasons why we're distinctive.
Well, yeah, and one of the things with the Newman Guide, so folks understand, this is named after Cardinal Newman.
Yes.
And John Henry Cardinal Newman. And this is a guide for Catholic schools that are maintaining a strong Catholic identity.
Right. They started by Patrick Riley, who's still running it, and they evaluate all the Catholic schools. About 230 left. They're getting less every year, and because they can't compete with the public schools because they caved into the culture. They don't really stand for anything, and their tuition is really high.
Yeah.
So they evaluate all the Catholic schools, 230 schools. Only 15 in the United States are in the Newman Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Like us, Franciscan, Dallas, Benedictine, Christian, and Thomas Aquinas, Belmont Abbey, and a few small ones like Thomas More.
Magdalene College.
Magdalene closed.
Yeah.
They got it. They shouldn't have closed, but they borrowed too much money and couldn't pay it back.
Yeah, finances are tough, but it's especially if you don't charge $80,000 a year. But with the law school, one of the things that I remember learning about law schools is that back in the time of World War I, a man named Roscoe was the head of the law school at Harvard. And they switched. And this is what I think this is one of the things that makes a law school, conservative or liberal, or like say worse. One of the things that he did was forbid the teaching of the text of the Constitution in the constitutional law class.
Really? How could you teach constitutional law without the Constitution?
Now, there's an interesting question. How do you teach constitutional law without teaching in fact, before Roscoe, law students had to memorize the Constitution. They had to know it by heart.
Really?
And so they really could practice. Well, what he did is that instead of looking at the text of the Constitution, they study individual cases. So they'll read the law cases, and they'll go from one case to another, but you don't get the whole picture. You get this issue. So, for instance, former President Barack Obama said that when he taught constitutional law at the University of Chicago, the linchpin of his course was Roe versus Wade decision. They focused on that decision, not on the principles of law as such. And they try to learn
Chicago's a top
principles.
school.
Yeah, and they try to learn principles from those individual cases. Whereas the traditional way had been study the Constitution, then look at the cases. You know, they do the cases and then go to the Constitution. Different perspective. So this is one of the things they did differently. And I spoke at the law school a few years ago.
You got an honorary degree there.
Yeah, the doctoral law degree. I
gave a good talk.
You know, thanks. I still haven't passed the bar. At least not that bar, but but it's that's one of the things that makes it what it is. That you study the basic principle, the text. You know the Constitution, then you deal with cases.
Well, when we were starting the law school, we got the top legal Catholic minds together. Justice Scalia was one of them.
Yes.
And he brought his clerk with him, and now she's on the Supreme Court.
Oh, is that right?
But he insisted that he pounded the table. No ice cream courses. No ice cream courses. He was adamant.
Yeah.
And so we got in trouble with the ABA, and they found that we were as rigorous, our curriculum was as rigorous as any law school in the country.
Yeah, that's good. We have to take a little break, but we'll come back in just a couple of minutes. And if you want to learn more about Ave Maria University and Ave Maria School of Law, as well as Ave Maria Radio and Legatus, go to the Ave Maria Foundation.org, AveMariaFoundation.org. All of the lots of information on each of those great institutions. We'll come back and we want to take a look at another part of Tom's work, which is working with Legatus. So please stay with us. We are talking with an old friend, Tom Monaghan, who is not only the founder of Domino's Pizza, but also of a university and its law school and of another organization called Legatus, which we'll talk about in a little minute. But Tom also had a good friendship with Mother Angelica.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you got
I
to
felt
know
her temper
Mother.
a few times, too.
You got, she showed her temper to you? How, well, she only did that with people she really hated or people she really liked.
I don't think she hated
lukewarm, no, she did not. She did not. But she had the force. So she was never with the lukewarm that way. She only with the hot and the cold. I think that you were one of the people that she really, I know she liked you.
Well, she was a big hero of mine.
Yeah.
I felt she brought more people into the church and kept them in the church than anybody in history, in American history.
I've oftentimes thought that when they write the history of American Catholicism in the future, they're going to have to include a chapter on Mother Angelica.
I agree.
Because it's the network and everything has just been amazing. But we've got a clip of you back when you were here and back in 1987. That's been a minute now. And let's take a look at that when it was Mother Angelica live. And you were showing Mother how to make a pizza. Let's take a look.
Okay, you ready to go? I know you're surprised, aren't you? I asked him to, I can never figure out how they do all this twirly stuff. And so you want to see my apron? Here. It says Mamma Mia. And it's got the good old Italian flag here. And anyway, he's going to make a pizza for you And this is our first cooking class, so please watch. You may never have another one.
You want me to do one, and then
Now I want you to do one.
and then you're gonna do
Me?
it the same way I did it. What'd you put the apron on for?
Well, I don't know.
The first thing is you gotta push the dough down on the edge.
You don't use a rolling pin.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, that pinches the edges too much, and it makes a
Then
crust.
you what?
And you leave it in the center because
Yeah.
and stretch it a little like this, and then watch out. Okay. Now, the trick here is every time you slap it, you turn it about a sixth of a turn, because if
Yeah.
you just go
Oh,
the same
you're
way,
turning it?
it gets like a football. Oh yes, every time I hit it. And I got my hips into it, so it's not just my hands.
What is your hip?
Well, that's important.
Your hip is important?
Yeah, just like in any sport. You flip it
No.
around like this, and yeah, like that.
You want me to do that? Oh my Lord and Savior.
When you put it on the screen, which you bake it on,
You got it bigger than the screen.
well, it shrinks. See, I know what I'm doing, but they, I've only done about 1 million of these.
Okay. Smells great.
Yeah, our first store in Ypsilanti was the busiest pizzeria in the country.
Really?
We had about 4,500 pizzas a week.
No wonder you can do it. Now what?
I'm making a mess here.
That's
But
all
you'll
right.
get the sauce about a half an inch from the edge. And you have to be very delicate with the sauce because you want it the right thickness. If it's too thick, and this is a very important part of making the pizzas, if it's too thick, it's overpowering. If it's too thin, you got a bland pizza. So it's a very delicate motion. Very.
Smells great.
And the cheese,
Ay,
we call that yellow gold. It represents about half the cost of a pizza.
the cheese?
Mm-hmm. And pepperoni, it's about, I'd say about 75% of the pizzas have pepperoni on them. It's the most popular item, and probably my favorite. I never order pizza without pepperoni except on Friday. I'm still one of those Catholics that
Yeah,
don't eat
yeah.
meat on Friday. How about you, do you?
No, we don't eat meat on Friday. You put
No,
ham
No
on it?
ham. Huh?
Look at that. And mushrooms?
Mushrooms, we have fresh mushrooms. No green
And
pepper, that's for
peppers,
color.
so
We
that's-
sell a lot of these on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, really?
No onions, that's the pearls of cooking. And there's a pizza. In about 7 minutes, that would be ready for delivery.
And then you gotta cook it though.
Oh, yeah.
How long did that take?
That takes about, as I say, about 7 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes. Okay, now it's your turn.
I need bargain for this.
Okay. Got lots of flour in there, so that's good.
You go like this?
Yep. With your fingers.
This is easy.
Oh, you're a good teacher.
Now what? I
Slap.
go like this?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh God, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I throw it. I don't have the hips for it.
Well,
Now
I can't
what?
tell without having it.
It's not growing like yours
Well,
did.
you gotta get your hips.
It's getting dumber. Something's gone wrong. What happens if I throw it?
It comes down.
Well, here goes. This is not how you do it, folks, but believe me, somehow it's all getting stuck together.
That's almost 40 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Time goes
39
by.
years, wow.
Yeah, 39 years ago. You know, when I see that, I can't help but think of the episode of I Love Lucy when she tried to make pizza. I remember that was one of
I
the
don't
old.
remember, but I probably saw it.
And what's funny is that Mother had never seen Lucy. They didn't watch TV at the convent, so she had never seen the Lucy shows until after she was bedridden.
Oh,
And somebody got her the DVDs of those old shows, and it was all first time for her. So she would see that story of the Lucy making pizza, and there she is. Now, this is something that where you made your financial success, your success in the business world, and you made a fairly big impact on the pizza industry.
well, and particularly the delivery.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
the first one to focus on delivery.
Yes.
It was the hardest part of the business. I figured if I could figure out that, I'll be all right, because nobody could do it. The peaks and valleys are so dramatic, and they didn't have the kinds of ovens to do it. You know, you use standard bake ovens, and every time you open up the door, you're opening up one whole wall of the oven. So the next thing you know is you're going from 7 minutes to bake a pizza to 30 minutes just to bake it, because you're losing all the heat. You got to
Sure.
pop the bubbles and clean it out from all the soot, and turn the pizzas, and the doors open all the time.
So how did
we
you
came up with a conveyor oven,
Oh, is that it?
and that stayed at 6-7 minutes, no matter how busy it got.
Okay. So so did
was
you
a-
invent that yourself?
Well, I stole it from another idea. They were using them in a factory to heat parts after they painted them,
Okay.
and that's where I got to it. It was infrared.
Okay. Well, so you made this impact, and this is no small issue, because something that you did and that now you're trying to teach others to do is incorporate your Catholic faith in business. A lot of people will make a whole separation that here is business and this is church over here. You make a compartment, and there's no impact from what you do at church to what you do in your business. It's two different things. Family is over here, and none of these parts. You started an organization called Legatus to help see ways that we can bring the business and the faith together. Tell us about Legatus.
Well, I wanted to get together the lay people who I thought were the most proven leaders in the church, and I think that's largely businessmen. There's, the professors and academics have maybe higher IQs. The lawyers are more articulate, but the guys that run a business, they get things done. And I felt that we should get them together and to inspire each other to be better Catholics. And in the process, learn more about the church, bring in top speakers like you spoke at many Legatus chapters. George Weigel would go to any chapter anywhere in the country that asked him for only $1,000. But it was the kind of audience that you want to speak to, because they can make a difference. And that's really what's happened. We got about 90-some chapters, about 6,000 members, and it's not for everybody. You have to meet certain financial requirements. You have to.
This isn't like a small business bureau. This is people who have made an impact in somewhat larger business areas, but to show they have that leadership skill. That seems to be part of the criteria.
And bringing like people together. If you're running a couple $100 million company, you don't want to be sitting next to a guy that operates a gas station. You wouldn't have a lot in common. So they want to be with their peers, and they can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
And we have a big convention every year. We have the who's who of the Catholic world. And they say it's the ultimate Catholic pep rally. We've been doing that every year. And we started this in '87. same year.
There's a pizza store.
It was right after I met the Pope the first time. I was at his private mass, and I just got the idea that there ought to be an organization like this, and that's all I could think about for months. And we put it together. We designed the structure of the meetings. It starts out with a rosary, confessions available, a mass,
Right.
and a cocktail. I didn't have a cocktail session in there because I didn't think we had time. We just went from mass to dinner to the speaker, and because I didn't want people to be there all night. But I haven't found anybody yet that wanted to skip the cocktail session. So we have that too.
It is
So
a
it's-
Catholic organization. So,
And a lot of Irishmen.
but it does work that way. That there's prayer and mass, confession available.
And every chapter has a chaplain. And so they have access to the chaplain, and so that's another advantage.
Yeah.
Because you
And-
often get to know
And usually it's,
preset well.
the meetings are on a weekday, so you don't want to stay out real late and real long, but you try to make these impacts the best you
Yeah,
can.
they're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And one of the reasons I want to do it in the middle of the week, I want to get people the idea that if you go to mass during the week, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
So they get, because I think the ultimate idea for any Catholic is to be a daily communicant.
Yep. Yeah.
That's everybody should be. That should be a goal, I think.
Well, you and Pope Pius X, that was one of his goals as well, and it's an important one. And certainly Sunday Mass and Communion, but weekdays are also important because there's a lot that goes on that we need to bring to our Lord. One last thing that I also want to mention, we just have a few minutes left, but you had the same or similar concerns about how people invest. You wanted also to help them to come up with ways that invest in Catholic ways, a Catholic perspective on investment. What did you want to accomplish with that?
Well, that was Ave Maria mutual funds.
Mutual funds,
And
right?
a friend of mine, George Schwartz, who's a real leader in investment, stock picking, and everything, asked him to do that, and we call it a pro-life mutual fund. So anything that promotes abortion is ruled out, like pharmaceutical companies. And so still, despite a lot of companies don't qualify, they still do quite well.
Yeah, I was going to say that, that would be a question that people might have. I think we did a show on that once, some years ago. Some of the people from the investment part were here, and we talked about this. And the question is, well, if you limit yourself to investing in companies that only have Catholic values, how can you make any money? I mean, is that lucrative? And people are afraid to take that leap. That ethical considerations may hurt my bottom line.
Well,
And how did that turn out?
Well, most of the violators are huge companies, and and a lot of the mid-sized and smaller companies are clean on that.
Yes, right, right.
And they just hire really top-notch people, and it's really it's a vocation for them. The whole family's involved in it, the whole Schwartz family, they've got over $4 billion in invested now.
Is that right? And they're doing better, worse, the same as the other mutual funds?
I think by and large better. There's certain times when a lot of the high-tech stocks are up, like Apple and Microsoft, and some of those they're violators. and maybe they contribute to Planned Parenthood or some.
They do. They do, and it seems that they're very committed to reducing the size of the population of the planet. Which is actually turning into a crisis. Where places like China are having rapid decrease of population.
Especially women, especially girls.
Oh yeah, well they boarded them. They boarded them, but without girls, boys don't have a woman to marry. That's the way I learned biology years ago, and so their population is something like about less than a fifth of replacement level, and Russia's going down. Japan is declining. South Korea is declining. We don't know North Korea, but this is a global problem, and to invest in companies that have that Catholic perspective is also a concern for the future. And I think that's an important part of all this.
Well, the idea of starting that fund too is to get companies to think twice before they give the Planned Parenthood or support abortion in any way.
We have one question from our studio audience. Sir, where are you from?
Yes, Father. Thank you. I'm Gregory from Coronado to Hoover, Alabama now.
Well, good to have you here in Alabama.
Thank you.
What's your question?
I have a question for Tom. Tom, thank you for being here this evening. I'm looking for or asking for advice as a leader of a business or a company that employs non-Catholics, non-Christians, or a wide variety of people. How do you lead or attract new employees while living your Catholic faith?
Especially in Alabama, where Catholics are only 3% of the population.
Well, I'm sure it's bigger than that now, but it was about 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's growing.
So we have another minute or so, minute and a half. So what do you do to encourage that?
Well, I think even here, when I was with Mother Angelica years ago, she had people working here that weren't Catholic.
Right, the majority.
Yeah, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You have to do it. Well, in Ave Maria in the Legatus, the law school, we don't hire any non-Catholics. We don't even hire mediocre Catholics.
Yeah, and this is something. When you do hire, like in a place like Alabama, which is a very small Catholic population, you can't force them to become Catholic or anything. No, that's out of the question. But you can set a Catholic
You can set an
tone.
example, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I did that, and I tried to do that in Domino's. And it helps when you're a private company. We were a private company, and so I could get away with things that I didn't have to worry about investors or the media.
Or the government.
The stocks going up or down.
That would work. Yeah, I think setting a tone that shows respect
And everybody
for...
knew I was Catholic.
Yeah.
Everybody in the company knew I was Catholic.
Sure.
And we said grace every time we had a public meal. And I even preached about, I don't care what religion you belong to, but belong to some religion, go to church.
Yes.
Because I saw so many of our young people with franchises doing well, and then next thing you know, they're getting divorced. And I know that people that go to church regularly, the percentage drops way down. It's,
Right. So you can encourage that much.
Yeah.
I can remember the days when Howdy Doody even did that. That was really a good thing. They encouraged us to go to church. Well, Tom, thank you for being here with us.
It's been
Appreciate it. Yeah, good. And want to give a blessing to you and our audience. May Almighty God bless you and keep you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And you can find out more about all these different great works that Tom has done by going to AveMariaFoundation.org. And we would appreciate if you remember to keep us every month between your gas bill, your electric bill, and your cable bill. We have to pay our monthly bills, and we totally depend on your support. God bless you, and thank you for all that you do to help us do this mission.